Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I think I'm going to take a little break from the car and do something that I know a lot of you have been kind of wondering if I was going to do or not. Try out my welder. If you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please subscribe because that really helps me out on the business end and it's free for you to do. I just want this thing to take off and try to be self-sustaining at this point because you can tell I'm kind of a cheap racer and I need some help. So if you could do that and tell your friends, tell anybody you know who might be interested in cars, motorsports. It's not going to be all racing forever. It really won't. But for now, that's pretty much what I'm doing. So tell your friends, tell anybody you can. Anyway. Yeah, you heard me right. I'm actually going to try out my welder because I got all the parts and pieces to it to get it to use all of the functions and functionality that it has. So I'm going to go take a look at it. If you're new to the channel and you don't know which one I got, I'll show you all of it. Obviously, I'll dive into that as much as possible. But let me get started by showing you or refreshing you what I got. Before I dive into this, I really got to offer a disclaimer here. This isn't really going to be a fair test of this machine because I am not a professional welder. I am a hobbyist, okay? Keep that in mind the whole time. This is more of a review of me and whether or not I can actually use this thing properly than it is of the actual machine. Now, what I have here is the Harbor Freight Unlimited 200 multi-process welder. It is a little dusty. I know I said I would try to keep it as nice as possible in a previous video. Hasn't really happened, but I could always take the blowgun to it and just clean her off. This has a bunch of different functions. It has MIG function, which is pretty much all I use anyway. You can stick weld. You can, actually, why don't I show you the accessories? This is what they come in. I bought the spool gun. As you can see, this is the one that stands out the most, obviously for aluminum welding. And yes, I am a step ahead of you. I do have a small tank of straight argon under there. It's got a TIG welding function, or stick welding function, which I have used on the channel before to very poor results because I had no idea what I was doing. But this time it should be a little different. I got a lot of good advice and I got different rod for that. It is a 220 welder, but it does come with a 120 adapter, and it's really easy to switch that over as well. You can come to the back side here. It's kind of dark. Let me move my helmet, and you can see there's a switch down here that says 220, 120. You just switch that. Obviously, I'm on 220. So you got the stick and the accessory function for 120. You got the spool gun. I don't even know if I've even opened this thing. I'll open it up later and we'll get that put together. And then you got the TIG torch. Now it's got a very rudimentary TIG function and I don't have the flow gauge, but I figured I would just crank this up if I needed to. I'll read all the instructions before I do that. But I was going through and I was looking at the parts and it's kind of rudimentary. It's not so bad. I don't really know any better. Obviously it's not metal, but it is kind of a very hard composite. It's got a little rubber on it. The ceramic doesn't look terrible, but it's Harbor Freight, so obviously some things were probably damaged in shipping. They come with a 4, 5, and 6 cone. I don't know anything about that, but anyway, you got your polarity plug for the front. You can go over here and switch it to, different functions. I don't even touch this one because it's a 2-touch or a 4-touch. I just leave it on 2-touch. If I have to change it, I'll change it later. But this kind of upsets me because you got a TIG torch, you got different cups, you got the backside or whatever, you got those sleeves for the tungsten in different sizes, and there's one that comes in it, but you don't get the tungsten. That's prototypical Harbor Freight. We'll give you almost everything unless it's a little pricey. Then you got to buy that separately. Like the spool gun. Yeah, buy that separately. But you can see it connects directly to the unlimited 200. And let me open this up. I really needed two hands for that. So here we go. All right, so it's got, crikey, I don't even know where that goes. And then it's got that. It looks like it plugs into something. I'm totally lost. Like, let me see. I'll go in here and I'll open this up. All right. So we got, all right, so the gas is actually like a push kind of dealy here. You just kind of stick that in there and it kind of locks itself in. You got spool gun function or MIG and flux function. Obviously, I'll read the book. I think this probably has to go into where the MIG comes out of, I'm guessing. And then you'd probably just run your air in there. And I don't know. I'm not really sure how everything works here. So, again, just kind of bear with me. And then these, your trigger function, it's just another, just pull it back and it comes off. You don't have to unscrew nothing. And then to put it back on, it's just kind of, you just clip it in. I thought it was a screw-on before, and so I wasn't able to put it on the first time I use it. Read the instructions for things when you do stuff, kids. I also bought just a wire brush kit because I figured, I know that if you use it or you have to do aluminum work, you don't use the same wire brushes you use for steel because it could contaminate it, etc. So I just said, all right, $5, I'll get some wire brushes. So as you saw in the time lapse, it really wasn't that difficult to set up. Otherwise, basically the same as setting up the MIG gun, the regular MIG gun. You just kind of add this part in its place and plug in the gas, hit the switch, and plug in your correct bottle, which is that one down there, the pure argon bottle. I got a smaller one. I had a 60 laying around. I usually use an 80 for, 75-25, but I had that one that my uncle gave me, and I said, well, I could at least try to figure this out. So I got pure argon, and you never know. I might need to weld a lot of aluminum. Who knows? I could find some use for it. But anyway, this is set up. I had a spool laying around for a while. I think it's a Hobart 53. Sorry, I had to look at the number. 5356. I'm sure a lot of you will be like, oh, you got to use a 4043. I don't know. Okay, so give me some credit here. The problem with this machine is it gives you all this stuff, but it says, hey, the aluminum stuff is 035. Here's your functions for 035, or your for 120, and then 220 or 240 for material thickness, and here's your settings and stuff. And it's like, well, I got 030 wire, so bear with me. So I'm basically gonna fire this thing up, and I'm gonna set the settings to whatever I think is close. I'm gonna look through the book one more time, make sure all these settings are close. I'll even look through the book for the actual welder, not just that thing, because that thing can go to 3 different welders. And I'll get the settings correct and see what happens. It is getting down to crunch time here. I got my bottle on. I got my settings set. I've got a couple pieces of scrap aluminum sheet and a couple pieces of scrap aluminum just angle iron that's very small. I figured I could try doing some lap welds with it because it's just the easiest one I could possibly learn on, just to learn the machine, and then I can go from there. But with the price of aluminum and all sorts of other stuff, it's a little bit difficult to come by. So I got this thing feeding. It is working properly. I got a little tail there I got to cut off with some pliers. It's pushing gas. Everything seems to be working. Now it's time for me to safety gear up and give it a shot, I guess. Fingers crossed I can actually figure this out. So, like I said, I'm going to try some spot welds to see if I can tack sheet together or even just run a bead down it. I actually have a lot of that I can test with. This stuff I really don't, so I think I'm just going to set this up and clamp it together and take a wire brush to it and clean her up and try that. I might have to get the torch over here, the little Burns-O-Matic over there, because I think that you might have to preheat some of this. So I might try it with and without preheating, and I can at least do it like one side here and one side here, and then flip it over and then do it on the other sides as well. So we'll try all the different variables just to see what happens. Okay. Are you ready for disaster? Oops. God almighty. This is why you wear leather gloves, kids. That is leather, thankfully. So I forgot that, aluminum doesn't dissipate heat that quickly. So anyway, yeah, I got a little work to do here and figure it out. I didn't clean that side off yet. I think I got to turn the argon up a little bit. I'm trying to turn the heat down because it looks too high. I tried tack welding sheet aluminum, and boy, this machine don't like doing that, and I think it's just too much for that sort of thing. I tried bumping it pretty much all the way down, and it was just unhappy. So I think this machine's good for pretty thick aluminum. This is some thin stuff. I mean, this is like, I forget what it is, a 16th or something, but I mean, it'll do it. I just have to play with the settings, and it's not so bad. If I need to do something, I can do it. So that's not so bad. But I just need more practice. I got to find some more scrap aluminum that I can clean up, and I wasn't sure if I did the right cleaning process on it. I probably had to use like acetone, and I don't have any. And I tried brushing it and heating it, and I think that worked pretty good. But I think that's how you're supposed to do. I think I need more argon flow, so I gotta look into literally all of that stuff. So I might try something else, by the way. So don't hate me for this, but I need to try this aluminum welding for something like this. Yeah, it's an old radiator, I know. Yeah, well, it's delicate. Well, yeah, I know. But I got it for free out of a buddy of mine's shop, and I know he watches. And for some reason, there's 3 holes drilled into this tank. So what I wanted to do was, I wanted to learn how to aluminum weld so that I could fix or customize, aluminum stuff. You never know. Hey, you got to learn somewhere. And I want to learn. And some of it came out okay. Others, maybe I just didn't have the technique. Maybe I didn't have the flow rate up. Maybe I'll go bump the flow rate up. Preheat, scrub, acetone. Maybe I'll preheat after that. But I'll figure it out. And I want to see if I can fix that. In lieu of acetone, I have Turkish brake parts cleaner, which I'm sure is just totally fine. Got it off Amazon. Can't be that bad. Got my torch from earlier. And I've got, I don't know if brass is really a good choice or not, but I mean, it's not been used on anything but aluminum. Maybe I'll grab the steel one. I don't know. But I'm going to get to scrubbing this thing. And hoping for the best at this point, because maybe I should scrub it and then acetone it. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. a little bit on the settings, but this is all part of the learning process. I think I had it a little too low because I don't really know the thickness of this material. I think I could have cranked it up just a little bit because it built up a lot on the top. I'm not really used to aluminum welding, so that's something I got to be mindful of. And I'm going to read up on techniques and stuff, but I mean, there's no holes in it anymore. And the flap disc that I used to grind it down took a heck of a long time to get to even flush. I didn't want to go too far, so you'll still see the spots on it, but I mean, it would be interesting to pressure test it and see if it actually worked. That would be pretty cool. But again, how do you get better unless you practice? And in the 10 minutes that I've been doing this, I've already gotten better. Now, I really would love to practice on stuff like this even more. And that's why I got this. This is a piece that came out of my buddy's attic that he wasn't using. I think he forgot it was even up there. And it was a spare for him. And I mean, I got another spare over there, and I got another spare literally in the trailer. So this would be interesting for me to like learn on and modify and do stuff with. Like, what if I could buy, the right aluminum and buy a cheap radiator or get something like this and create my own double pass by cutting and welding, like cutting the tank off of it and welding it in and putting it back on. I would love to learn how to do stuff like that. Just like, homebrew, homegrown modifications of stuff. And that's exactly why I got this. And to be honest, it's going to take a little time, just like anything else, for me to learn how to do, but we're getting there so far. And like I said, I didn't learn how to do even regular MIG welding overnight. It took me years to get to a point where I'm passable and I can actually do stuff that doesn't look like complete trash. I mean, this stuff was done pretty quickly, but it's not complete trash, So that looks like trash. I think I slipped on that one anyway, but either way, it takes a while to learn this stuff. And I will be the absolute first to admit to you that I am not a professional welder. Not by any stretch. I don't think I'm even that good at it, but I want to learn. This is learning, You learn by doing, and that's the only real way that you'll ever figure it out. So that's why I got a race car. I want to learn how to do this stuff, And if I want to do things myself, then I got to do things like this. Find old scrap aluminum radiators and buy a spool gun and buy the welder and buy all the stuff to do it. And you know what? I'm starting to get it. So again, get out there and do it because you'll never figure it out otherwise. You can watch all the videos you want on the internet, but they're not going to tell you how to do it. You got to figure out how to do it and then see what it looks like and then make your adjustments. And that's precisely what we're doing here. I'm also kind of looking at the technique that whoever put this together, it's probably a Griffin radiator. I don't know for yet, but I'm just kind of looking at the technique and I'm learning by looking at that. I'm thinking it's not quite a circular kind of fillet weld. It's kind of a back and forth kind of deal. So I'm just kind of trying to pick up what I can just by looking at what I'm working on. And again, I would love to start doing custom stuff because that would be a lot of fun to me. I could sit here all day and waste literally all of my aluminum scrap trying to figure this out. But I think I'm going to move on because there's one part of this welder that I really need to be redeemed on, and that's the stick welder. Now, the brilliance of changing this thing over to stick welding is as simple as, push that button up and take that out. Now you just take your stick welding lead and pack it in there, set the settings, and you're good to go. For the stick welding application, if you watched a previous video of mine, I used the wrong wire, the wrong settings, and pretty much everything was wrong. Like I couldn't tell how thick it was. It was probably 1/8 inch thick plate. It probably wasn't as thick as I remember. And I had 7018. Yeah, I had this freaking ridiculous 7018 rod, huge amperage. Or current, whatever the hell I'm trying to say here.
again, I'm not a professional welder. Leave me alone, you know. So this time, after some advice, I went and got some 60. Well, I got 6011, 3/32 inch. I figured it would be fine for this, which is, let me see what it is. I would call that an honest 1/4 inch plate. So I'm going to stick those together. Maybe I'll grab a magnet or something. See, the other issue with running something like this is that you will lose pretty much everything. Hey, I found it. Anyway. See, my idea is kind of just take it like this. Maybe weigh that down. Maybe it'll sit upright enough. Maybe I could hold it with one hand. I got you know what? Okay, fine. Maybe I won't be a complete hack, and I'll use a magnet, and that'll kind of hold it in place, but at the same time, kind of not. It's probably the only way I'm going to be able to do this. All right, I'll load this wire. I'll get my ground hooked up, and we will start welding. I'm not going to lie, this is not that easy. Again, I don't think I'm really doing the machine any sort of justice, because I'll be the first to tell you that I have no clue how to weld with flux. Doesn't matter if it's a flux welder, like a MIG welder. Doesn't matter if it's this. No clue. And what sucks even worse is that you got guys gatekeeping all of the technique and knowledge and stuff because they want to sell you a welding school or a class or whatever. And I'm basically just over here playing with settings, trying to figure it out on my own. Yeah, this isn't as bad as my first effort. It's still a little bit boogery, but it started to get a lot better at the end. Like, these two are my last ones, and it's like, could be worse. But again, I'll figure it out eventually if it's something that I actually need to learn. But in my instance, I'm never welding 1/4 inch plate. And if I am, I'm usually on my MIG welder, and I've got 035 wire in it with the voltage cranked up. So it's getting better. And I think that the different rod is definitely helping. It was a lot easier to strike. It seemed to like more voltage. I mean, I don't know if this rod is any good over this type of material. So, I mean, I turned it down. It got more difficult. I turned it up. It got better. You be the judge. I mean, obviously this isn't good, but I'm getting there. I'm making progress. You learn with me. Wish I had the door open, but I think the air inside is probably a lot better than the air outside, because we're getting weird fish smelling rain from that train derailment in Ohio. So anyway, yeah, there's that. If you've watched previous episodes, I've showed you how the MIG welding function works, and I like it a lot because that's what I'm familiar with. I've showed you a little example of it when I did the bumper, but to be fair, when I weld bumpers, I just kind of make sure they stick on. It's not really an art project. So, I mean, I could take a little more pride in my work, but you saw it already, so it's all good there. I might include that in this video anyway, but I got to cut it off for now because I got to go get a piece of tungsten to put in here. And I want to air the shop out. And, when there comes to stick welding, a lot of slag falls, and I forgot to take all of the flammable cardboard material and etc. and get that off the floor. So I'm just going to hang out here and wait until something starts to smolder so that my garage doesn't burn to the ground, or make sure something doesn't smolder. So I'll clean up here, and I'll be back with you as soon as I find tungsten. I'm back with TIG parts. I had to go to Harbor Freight,
because they were the only place open that had TIG anything, especially tungsten. So I bought a little kit that came with a bunch of random stuff. Came with 4 pieces of different sized tungsten. It had an 040, I believe. I gotta look at this thing to remember what the sizes are. It had a 040, a 1/16, a 3/32, and it goes all the way up to like 1/8. I'm like, bro, I don't think my machine can even handle 1/8. I know nothing about this. It came with a bunch of different cup sizes. I don't think I'll be using any of those. Came with another one of these and another one of these, which I already had, which kind of pisses me off, but whatever. What if I break one? So I decided upon the 1/16 because that has the most range in my machine. 16 gauge up to 10 gauge. I bet you that'll probably weld roll bar material, and I got a lot of that left over, so I might use that for my scrap and see what I can do with that, or maybe I got some other square stock hanging around. But I got the torch taken apart, got the regulator behind me. I'm sure that this is going to go directly into the regulator because this is not a foot pedal style. Basically, it's you set it on the machine and then you strike the arc to get it started. I used, just because I watch too much TV, I got the biggest cup size that they had available. I think it's an 8 because I want more argon flow to go over the area. Maybe it'll help with cleaner welds and make me look a little better. But I got to get this sharpened up, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going off of instructions and what I've seen with other people doing it. So bear with me. But I know enough to be dangerous. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this isn't really much of a review on the machine as it is kind of a review on me. I'm just your average hobbyist, really. That's all I am. And I'm just trying to learn as I go. And you're kind of watching me figure it out for the first time. And I think that's kind of fun. You know, you can watch me struggle, and this is exactly what you're gonna what you're gonna see when you start doing it too. So let's get started, because I really got to get this thing sharpened and on the machine, because I had to shut my heater off because all the spring weather just went away, and then now we're back to winter. But we'll get this in the sharpening machine, and I got an idea for this because I got to sharpen this tungsten a specific way, but I'll show you how I'm gonna try it. By the way, I went and bought some new welding gloves because the ones that I have are not only kind of old, but they're really beefy. This is like stick welding stuff. So I went and bought some gloves at Harbor Freight. They were like 13 bucks, and they're actually pretty comfy. It says Master Welder Series, and they're for TIG welding, but I use TIG welding gloves for everything just because they're leather, and they are way more comfortable than what you usually use. But let's be fair, I don't really think that any master welders are going to Harbor Freight, but you could be wrong. I mean, they do have some nice things. This is a nice set of gloves. So anyway, I got those. And this is my idea to sharpen my tungsten. I have an old drill doctor that really does not sharpen drill bits very well because it's broken. I keep trying to figure out how to get it to work. It doesn't work because all it does is just round off my drill bit. So I'm just going to throw it away anyway. But it's got this diamond wheel on the bottom of it. And I figure what I'll do is I'll get this thing, like, I'll put a brick on it or something, and I'll figure out which way it spins. And then I'm going to take the tungsten and stick it in my old drill. I'll probably clean this off as well with some brake clean to try to get as much of the contamination out of it as I can, but I probably won't be able to do that, but bear with me. And I'll take the tungsten, I'll put it in a drill, and I'll put it straight in, because when you sharpen these, apparently, you need to sharpen it lengthwise and not against it like this, because electricity flows like water and, you know, path of least resistance to get it out. So to help get the arc going the right way, I guess you got to sharpen it lengthwise, not widthwise. So that's something to consider, I guess. I'm just reading stuff online or whatever. So I'll get this in a drill and I'll spin it as it's in the sharpener. get a good point on it, and I'll shove it back into the machine, and we can start trying stuff. All right, let's see if I can even... Which way does it even go? Hang on. Okay, so it goes this way. All right, let's see if I can... Wow, that's actually kind of nice. All right, cool. That seemed to work really, really quickly. I did not expect it to go that fast, but we got a nice sharp point and all the lines are going straight. So I guess that's what we want, right? All right, so this goes this way. Right, nice and gently. Okay, that's poking out quite a bit. So let's just kind of not have that poking out so much. I think you just want it a little bit out, right? I'll consult the manual and figure out how much poke out we're supposed to have, and then I'll finish putting it together, obviously. Lock electrode in place with back cap. Electrode should protrude 1/8 to 1/4 beyond the ceramic nozzle. That's good enough. All right. That's not what I'm looking for. This. All right, so there we go. We got that. We got that. Hey, at least this drill doctor that doesn't really drill doctor anymore, at least I can get her set up. I think it's a little bit too pointy, but we're figuring it out as we go, all right? So also, now, when we go to set up a TIG torch, it says that you want to have... Oops, this thing's set up for MIG welding, so we're going to have to disco that stuff. I just do that just to be safe. They said, all right, you got to set up your ground. I don't want to say negative because it's not that anymore. Your ground goes to the positive side. TIG torch goes in here. And I think it goes to that setting, but I'll consult the manual on that as well. Set the mode switch to the middle TIG welding setting. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Again, when you're setting this thing up, this thing has its own valve for air, gas, whatever the hell I'm trying to say. And this plugs directly into the bottle, bypassing the machine. So it's got the same inlet, as you can see here, as this. And these are actually pretty well made, to be fair, from Harbor Freight. It's really good. I have not had it leak down at all. So, but I don't leave my tanks on anyway, just to be safe, but I'll come back in and the pressure will still be... Look, I haven't used this since last night. It's still holding. So, pretty dang good if you ask me. But, all right, we're going to get this hooked up. I'm going to get that hooked up. I'm going to get a scrap piece, and I'll come back when I get that set.
All right, I dug through my scrap. I found some clean metal. I cut it all in half because this used to be a piece of like 1 inch that I had scrap left over. It was a piece like I had some slash cuts, and then this was just a piece of bent roll bar material, probably cut off from when I did my fuel cell bar down the bottom, which you can't see. That was dumb. So I'm going to take these and just kind of stick them on top of each other and try to weld down the seams just to get an idea of how to do it, and then maybe I'll just try to stick them together or something. I don't know, but like I said, just grabbing scrap pieces and give it heck and see what happens. So I got to check the flow rating for the pure argon over there on the book and see if there's any info on that, and if not, I'll look it up on the internet and I'll fire off the time lapse. All right, well, bit of a learning process here, but I tried to get it tacked. It wouldn't go to the second metal, so I got to turn it up a little bit, and I got one tack, and then I think I accidentally dipped it, and yeah, I boogered the tungsten up pretty bad, so I got to clean that off now. So I should have did a flat weld instead of trying to do something into a corner just to get the hang of it. But to be honest with you, it's really clean, and I just got to figure out how to get the voltage right. This little bit right here was me kind of pulling off of it, but that was the first little tack that I got, and it yanked this side right up off, so I got to clamp that back on. Like I said, I think I bumped it, and it's not straight on there no more, so I got a lot to learn. But that was my first ever tack with TIG welding, and I got to do something to straighten it back out and clamp it. But yeah, that was a little bit of foresight, and I got to clean the tungsten. And I know people probably laugh at me, but hey, this is all part of learning, right? And I tried dipping filler into it, and I finally figured that out. And then I think again, this is all new to me, so I got to try to clean that tungsten up and get back to it. This is hard, and I think it's definitely not impossible. I didn't talk about the welding rod that I got. I think I don't even know if I got the right stuff. I thought it was just like mild steel and whatever, and that's pretty much what I bought, whatever they said on the sign. So here's my first attempt. I don't want to touch it because it's probably hot and I'll burn through my gloves again. Again, this is all learning. This is all me trying to learn the machine. Not great. I'm playing with voltages and I'm playing with stuff, and too hot, too cold, bad technique. You gotta start somewhere though. So I tried different settings, I tried different techniques, I tried different angles, and then I started to go to this one, and I started to get it a little bit more. Like I said, this is not an overnight thing. Like I said, too cold, and then I started to get it. And we're like, okay, now I'm starting to make sense. And then I flipped over and I'm like, okay, well, I need more time and I need more practice. Problem is one material is thinner than the other one. So trying to get those to burn together is not easy when you're doing this first time. So again, not a big deal. I started to get it, especially here. I started to kind of get it. And I'm definitely not ruining the tip as much as I was at the early part. And it's still got a point to it. Can you believe that? I rounded it off a couple times, first two shots. But again, this is something that I'm going to get better with the more I do it. So I think that little tank might get upgraded at some point, especially if I start to do this a little bit more. But again, for a rudimentary TIG machine, it's all down to the technique of the user. And I'm not very good at it. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not being good at it at the start. Nobody is ever good at anything the first time they do it. Like Mr. Rogers said, I'm not very good at it, but that's okay. And that's kind of my attitude right now is I'm not very good at it, but that's okay because I'm learning. This is stuff that in almost 25 years of working on race cars and doing hobbyist fabricating, I've never done before. Like, I've never really stick welded until you saw me do it on the channel. I've never aluminum welded until you saw me do it on this video. I've never even attempted to TIG weld. And, I mean, we're doing it. Is it a bad machine? You're not going to get an answer out of me. I think the machine's fine. I've watched other people do just fine with this same machine. Is it me? Yeah. Am I learning? Yeah. Is it a good machine to learn on? Yeah, I would say it is. So if you're looking for like a good professional, honest review of this specific machine, well, you're probably not getting it from me. But if I was going to recommend it to somebody who wants to learn these things, I would. I would say it's probably a, just fine for someone to learn on. If you want to spend a little more money and get a little bit better machine, they definitely have it. But for entry level stuff like what I do, I always MIG weld because race car. Everything's mild steel. I don't care. So I just zip it together with the MIG welder. And the MIG welder on this thing is great. It's compared to what I had before. This is very good. It's comparable. I wouldn't say it's as good, but it's as comparable as like a Lincoln. If you ask me to compare it to a Miller, I'm not going to because I think those are top-notch machines. But then again, I'm not a professional welder. But to learn, I would recommend it. Again, I really think I'm going to be upgrading that bottle because I know that I'm going to be sitting here off camera and I'm going to be going over to, I'm going to be in my scrap bin here and I'm absolutely going to be searching through here for as much clean metal as I can find that I don't want and searching the bench and stuff, or like taking whatever metal I got laying around. Or I might even be going to like somewhere like Tractor Supply and just picking up cheap sheet metal, or like not even sheet metal, but like, you know, scrap metal everywhere. And I'm just going to be butting stuff together. I guarantee it. You know, what a difference a little bit of time and practice can do. I mean, I wouldn't really call, I stuck them together and I did the seam down the middle. And I wouldn't call it good, but I would call it progress. I don't think that's that bad, you know? Hey, I got a little bit faster, whatever. I think that's actually the start and that's the end. Like I said, it's all part of the learning process, and I honestly don't think that's that bad. You know, it's actually kind of fun to learn. I like doing it, and I like learning new things, and I'll get better at it. And I think that's pretty good. I mean, I'm not stacking dimes or nothing, but you can see that's when I first tried it to where I am right now in the middle. You know, so hey, it's not perfect, but I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're getting there. I mean, I haven't been doing this more than 20, 30 minutes. I mean, it's it's a process, obviously, but this is the perfect stuff to learn on, and this is actually coming out pretty well. I mean, that's not that bad. Come on. Oh, now it's on the ground. Make sure it doesn't melt anything. Right. Anyway, I might do a quick MIG weld just to show, you know, that I'm competent at least, and at least I'll include it in the video. But I didn't plan on it to be a full review, but we might as well do one. I already got it hooked back up, so I might as well just change the bottle over and at least show that in the same one. If somebody's looking for a review of this thing instead of actually being a member of my channel, at least I can give you the whole review instead of just kind of, you know, leaving it out and making you go look for it. So why don't we do that? I'll grab some steel out of the scrap pile and I'll run a quick MIG weld across it, and I'll show you that too. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the two, it might be a little hot still, the two pieces that I used for scrap. I'm going to scratch this up just to make it get the paint off, make it weldable. Take this and just kind of stick it on there and just weld it right around the bottom to prove that the MIG works. She's all set up, ready to go. I will marry all of the scrap pieces now into one. Too bad there's no aluminum, but that obviously doesn't work. We all know this. By the way, the new gloves, getting a little dirty, seeing a little use. But I'll be honest, for like $13, they're really comfortable. And they're work gloves, these Hardys, man, they've been through hell and back. So if you're looking for cheap gloves, I guess Harbor Freight really is the place to go. I mean, these are faux leather, and these are, I think, actual leather. And these, man, they've been through hell, but they're comfy and they work really well. So obviously they're not paying me to say that, but I'm going to get this zipped on for one last time lapse, and then we'll see the results. Please refrain from all judgment because I did this really quickly. I put a little tack up here to show you that it can bridge a gap. Actually, this side was really kind of the bridge the gap side, but that worked pretty good. And then at the bottom, I just threw, a couple. I had to change position a couple times because whatever. But I mean, it works pretty darn good as a MIG welder. I just threw one on there real quick just to show you that it does work, and it works really, really well. It sounds good. It penetrates. It burns clean. So I mean, for a MIG welder, it's pretty damn good. So that was fun. I, again, need to preface this with saying that this is not really a review of the welder completely. I am not a professional welder. I am the ultimate hobbyist welder. I don't work in the trades. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm literally a guy who owns a race car, who does things on his own. Literally everything. Jack of all trades, but master of really none is a very accurate way of describing how I do things. Please don't mind me. I'm shutting my heat off because I am out of here. I want to go watch the race. But you want to ask me my honest opinion as somebody trying to learn all facets of welding, if this machine, the titanium unlimited 200 multi-process welder, I should have had all my ducks in a row on this one, is a good welder or not for someone learning how to do this? Yeah. When it comes from somebody like me who hard-earned money is hard to come by when it comes to buying things for yourself in your garage, I don't regret the investment. I don't regret it at all. And I think that speaks volumes for someone like me who is a hobbyist. If you pay a lot of money for something that's, and $900, or I was kind of out the door with this thing at about $1,000 because I paid for the spool gun and all the accessories and junk. Plus I bought like the MIG wire and the filler and the TIG parts. Every single thing is Harbor Freight except the tank. Everything. The gloves I wore, the wire I used, the machine, all of the consumables, everything is from Harbor Freight. And I don't regret it. As a hobbyist, I don't regret it at all. So I think that's the overall feeling that a lot of hobbyists like me would have. It's like, you don't want to spend a whole ton of money on something and then regret it in the end because you're like, oh, I wish I'd bought this or that, but I couldn't afford to. And you know what? No regrets. And I think that's about all you need to know. So thank you all again for watching. I appreciate it. If you showed up just to watch a review of this welder, please consider looking back through my back catalog if you're a racing fan or even a car person in general. And please consider subscribing and telling your friends if they're race people or if they're car people in general. Again, this is not a complete just racing channel. I'm going to have other stuff on here eventually, but got to take it as it comes sometimes. So thank you all again for watching. Consider subscribing, like I said. And I greatly appreciate it. And I greatly appreciate all your interactions and such. And until next time, thank you.